Good evening, everybody. Board of Selectmen's meeting of November 25th, 2014. Roll call, please.
4 selectmen present this evening. Mr. Holmes is absent. The town administrator is on sort of a short-term leave for a child. A new child has entered his domain, and so he's going to deal with that for a little bit, and I'm sure he'll be back quickly. And town council is not here this evening. I don't know if he plans on being here or not.
Do not know. Announcements, Mr. Titlebaum.
I don't think I have anything that really qualifies an announcement, perhaps a liaison report or two later.
She's got a packet over there.
Mrs. Whiteside, go for it.
I have several, sorry about that.
No, really.
I want to congratulate Quinn Staley from the high school for winning a GoPro in the Buzzards Bay Coalition Video Contest. Congratulations for doing a great job. 3 middle school students won the Community Scarecrow Contest, Brendan, John, and Chris, and their pictures are in the paper as well. Congratulations. I loved your scarecrows. Congratulations to the Key Club at the high school as well as the Global Education team for volunteering at the Recycling Center. It's a great opportunity to get rid of everything without paying for a dumpster. I didn't say that out loud. December 4th, 5th, and 6th at 7 p.m. at the high school auditorium, the Viking Theater Company is presenting Alice in Wonderland. The tickets, I think, are $25 at the door and at 7 o'clock. Would the record show that Mr. Holmes is here at 7:03?
Thank you.
I have to say that I started my acting career as a caterpillar, so I hope that and the town council is here too. So maybe some of the people in the Viking Theater can become as famous as I am. I don't know. No, thank you. I was creepy early, yes. There will be a dinner for the homeless on December 24th at the VFW. Donations are welcome, and you can call either Deneen or Joe Spinola. The numbers are in the paper. The Friends of the Wareham Library are hosting a holiday fair on Saturday, December 6th from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. There will be cookies, books, gift vendors offering jewelry, wreaths, and more. A couple of years ago, I got a fabulous wreath. Actually, I bought three of them. They were made out of a paperback book that had been ripped up. It was cool. So that was awesome. The Episcopal Church is having a fair on December 6th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Again, other baked goods, recipes, crafts. Wareham Friends of the Elderly are looking for, why are you talking? Looking for donations. Paula Hatch at 508-295-3787. There are many people in this town who are making choices between food and fuel. Not yet, because it's not that cold, but it is coming to that stage. There's a holiday sale for the Emblem Club at the Elks on the 29th. That's this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 3. There's a Relay for Life for American Cancer at bake sale on the 29th at Tremont Nail Store from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. December 5th, Fellowship Hall, Story Night with Santa Claus from 6 to 7:30. And the parade for
Village Association.
Village Association on the 5th, and I don't have any idea.
I think it's 10 o'clock.
Is it?
Christmas parade.
Christmas parade, yeah. I don't have the time. So there are lots of really neat things to do in town. I have to tell you, I did all my Christmas shopping last week at 2 of the local activities fairs. It was a lot of fun, and it was money well spent. Thanks.
I know it's unusual that we meet the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, I think. Or at least I'm never here anyway. So
Congratulations.
I'm going to make up for, Patrick's going to wish I was 10 minutes later. So I have about 40 pages here. Just relax. It's my Thanksgiving message that I've been meaning to give to you for the last 5 years.
The booklet is empty.
No, I do want to talk about Thanksgiving for a minute today, because I think that most of you know I'm a political junkie, and that I stay up 24 hours a day watching 24-hour news. And I got to tell you something, and be very honest with you. And if Mr. Bowen thinks I'm getting out of hand, he has my permission to pull the hook. As I sat there about 3:30 this morning, watching just some horrible, horrible scenes in America today, it really looked like it was a third world country, almost. The things that we see in Turkey, or things that we see in the Middle East. Unfortunately, my friends, last night, that happened in the streets of our America. And I thought about, especially my time here for the last 7 or 8 years in our small town of Wareham, and about my last 5 years having the privilege to serve as a member of your Board of Selectmen. And I can tell you that in every case, 100%, in every case that's come up, that's been brought to court, that's been brought to the court of the blogs, well, remember those, to the accusations that were made against individuals of our community who sat in positions of power, who ran neighborhood businesses, who ran publications. Every case in the town of Wareham turned out to be a bunch of crap. And so, my friends, I'm thankful today, as I sat there and watched that last night, I'm very thankful to be a member of your community here in Wareham. Do we have our issues? We all do. Every city and town across this country has issues. But thank God, in our town of Wareham, we don't have that issue. And so for that, I'm very thankful this year, and I'll give you my short list. As you know, my daughter's been sick. She's doing much better. I'm thankful for my family. Number one, my Dolores has been sick. Today, she's feeling very good. She's very healthy, so I'm very thankful for her and her health. I'm very thankful to be sitting here with these four. You put them here, I didn't, so I have to be thankful for them. They know I'm joking. I'm very thankful that Mr. Sullivan chose Wareham. He's not sitting there right now, but when we needed someone to take the leadership helm in our town, he stood up and accepted that position, so I'm very thankful for him. And the guy who gets all the grief around here, who's a very special friend, Mr. Bowen. I want to thank Rich. I want to thank Rich's family for putting up with all of his years of service here in Wareham. I know that we pay him $15,000 a month, and everybody says, oh, the guy makes all this gravy. But I can only tell you, and I can't tell you the specifics, but I can tell you that he's been working for this town for many years for free. And most of the members sitting here, at least in their short lifespans, a couple of them, have seen that happen already. So I'm very thankful for a lot of things, but most importantly, I'm thankful for my health, which has improved. I'm thankful for all of you, and may God bless you and your families over Thanksgiving. And I just hope that if you're going through anything right now that's personal, give it up and pray to God that He will help you and share your Thanksgiving gift with others. That's the best thing you can do if you're feeling down. Thank you.
I have nothing. Mr. Slavin, your turn.
Thank you. I don't really have much. I've been gone for a couple of weeks, so we'll just continue on.
All right, citizens' participation. Is anybody here to speak to us this evening? Come on down, Sandy. You raised your hand first. Yeah, you've got, you're going to be shut off in about 3 minutes because we have a hearing.
Okay, I'm not here for the typical stuff. You listed a whole bunch of things that are happening on Saturday, December 6th. I want to add the Wareham Garden Club is having their Xmas fair at the hall outside the Catholic Church on High Street. Boxwood trees, wreaths, etc. Anything that you could think about done with natural things. It's from 9 to 12, cookies, bake table, garden club, Saturday the 6th. Thank you.
Is that the Thatcher Hall?
No.
Which one?
St. Patrick's.
Oh, St. Patrick's. Never mind. Thank
All
you.
right, who's next? Come on down. You have, I can give you 2.5 minutes.
Okay.
All right?
I know I talk fast.
I know you do.
Evening,
Go
Sharon.
for it.
Good evening, board. My name is Sharon Gomes. This is my granddaughter, Rain Baptiste. We would like to thank everybody, and my granddaughter is going to speak for me.
Hello, my name is Rainey Baptiste. I went to Oakdale Playground every day since I was little, and I still do. I just want to thank everyone who has helped clean up the playground. It means a lot to me, my family, and all the kids out there. But I want to give a special thanks to Mr. Slavin, Mr. Tropiano, and Mrs. Whiteside. Also, I'd like to thank Mrs. Slavin and the Open Space Committee for making it possible to really rehabilitate our playground. Thank you, and I wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are thankful for living in this town and having the people that we have, and it's a safe place to live, and thank you for all your work.
Could you kill about another 30 seconds?
Listen, bring out the turkey. I was ready for the turkey after he spoke.
Actually, we actually need the letter that your granddaughter read because it's now officially part of the record.
Yes,
And we have
we'll
to
put it
go into
right
our
in the
minutes.
record. Can you give us a
Okay.
copy? That'll kill some time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It goes actually to me, so,
To the clerk.
very good. Thank you.
Thank you. We have
All right.
a good town and a friendly town, and God bless you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Happy
everybody in the community
Thanksgiving
for
to
us.
you all.
Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, we're going to wait about 30 seconds, and then we're going to, and we'll go back to citizens' participation. We actually have a hearing we have to do, so we're going to do that. Come on down. Can the assessors come down? All right.
You have some stuff you're going to pass out.
In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 56, the Wareham Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, November 25th, 2014, at 7:15 p.m. in the Multi-Service Center, Room 320, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., to receive public input relative to his decision in determining the FY15 residential factor. The residential factor determines the allocation of the real and personal property tax burden between various classes of property. Oral and written information on the views of the taxpayers of the town will, with respect to this matter, will be received and considered up until the afternoon of the hearing, November 25th, 2014. Comments may be sent by mail to the town administrator, care of the Selectman's Office, 54 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. 02571. All comments received before the hearing will be read into the record at the hearing. Oral presentations may be made at the hearing. I move we open the classification hearing.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mrs. Whiteside. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Okay, you're up.
Good evening, everybody.
Please,
First,
could you introduce yourself? Most people don't know.
my
out there
name
on
is
TV.
Jackie Nichols. I'm the Director of Assessing.
And I'm Steve Curry, Chairman of the Board of Assessors.
Thank you.
What you have before you is not a fancy presentation. It's basically just a little statement of the facts that we're talking about today. As you stated, we're here to talk about whether the town will continue to use a single tax rate or split the tax rate, shifting the burden towards the commercial from the residential. And I need to let you all know that right now, all of the values and the numbers that we are talking about today have just received preliminary certification from the Department of Revenue, but we have not yet received our final certification. We waited quite some time to get preliminary, and we will strive to get the final as soon as possible, but I know that they're extremely busy in Boston. Generally, when one talks about whether to split a tax rate or not, we talk about a break point of, you know, an 80-20 split for the classes of property. Right now, we are at an 82% for the residential and 18% for the commercial. It's very similar to last year and the way Wareham has been. This is basically due to the fact that when you have a lower percentage of commercial, the actual tax benefit to the residential taxpayer is very minimal, while it's shifting a lot of the burden onto smaller commercial properties. It's tough when you don't have proper support from the tax base to shift that burden over to the commercial, industrial, and personal property taxpayers. Based on the current information that we have, we are looking at a possible tax rate of $11.04. And in your little packet, I have put a what-if scenario, which talks about if you did a CIP shift in the tax rate, what it would do to the tax rate, how it would lower the tax rate for the residential and raise it for the commercial. But again, I have to caution that these are preliminary numbers. I also put in there a copy of the levy limit form, which you can see where our FY15 levy limit is right now. And finally, the last page has, from the tax rate recap sheet, what our total amount to be raised, what's going to be raised from the tax levy, and so forth. So you can see exactly where we stand at this particular moment. What we're seeing with the $11.04 tax rate is in the what-if scenarios at this point, for every 12 cents we save a residential on the residential tax rate, we actually increase the commercial, industrial, and personal property tax rate by almost 55 cents. So you can see it's quite a shift, even if to think about. And it's a conversation that I think even when we get to an 80-20 split, would have to be something that we talk about for a while, because we want to make sure that if we ever do this, that we have the proper support from our commercial, industrial, and personal property tax base. Are there any questions?
Steve, anything at all from you?
Excuse me, Mr. Selectman?
Any comments?
No, Jackie, our new director, has done a very good job of
I agree.
getting the information to the state. Just as a note, with our reval that we did this year, we had all our documentation and everything up to the state by the third week in August.
I think we surprised them this time.
So basically, we're in just as much as a bind for 3 months waiting for their answers so that we can get forward. So it's good that we got the preliminary. That means we can start doing all the other paperwork until that, so we're ready. Once they have that final certification, we can process all the paperwork and give everything out in a timely manner.
This has been a very good year for us, switching over from being behind and then almost to the borderline to actually being ahead of schedule. Mr. Titlebaum?
I'd just like to thank you for that comprehensive and comprehensible explanation of the residential factor, what goes into it, what goes into the makeup of the levy, and the rest of it. That's probably the most coherent explanation I've heard yet. Thank you.
Mrs. Whiteside?
First of all, I want to say, again, thank you. I echo my peers' encouragement and thanks for being so timely with your information. Second of all, I want to welcome you to Wareham as a resident.
Thank you.
And I want to wish you and your family a happy Thanksgiving here. And I want to also thank you for having conversations in the hall with me on things like, well, why shouldn't we split the tax rate? Why shouldn't we do this? Or, what can we do about this? You've been very, very helpful to me, and I apologize for keeping you from your desk. My hallway conversations have helped me a lot in understanding where we should go and where we've been. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much, and you're always welcome to trip me in the hallway. That's why I'm here, to help everybody. Just as an aside, I just wanted to mention, as far as our revaluation is concerned, I think it went pretty smoothly, and barring the fact that it was in Boston for a few months, the result of the revaluation saw not a whole lot of shift. There were some shifts within the town, but overall, just like a 1% change. It really wasn't, a dramatic change, just in case you were wondering.
Mr. Holmes?
Thank you. And this year we used the outside firm again, right?
Correct,
Yes.
this year
The-
we used,
And next year or 3 years from now, our goal is 0 outside dollars, right?
We'll see
Right.
exactly where we are and
We'll
how
work.
we're
We're going to
staffed.
help you with that.
Yeah.
Mr. Sullivan will help you with that too, and we'll support him on that, right? So that I would, if you wouldn't mind, just I'm assuming this is going to be posted somewhere. for
When we
people.
have when we get the final
It's
numbers,
still a draft.
Right.
right, when you can vote on this today, but you will have to keep it open and reaffirm your vote when we get the final certification. And at that time, I will do this again for you, just to reaffirm the numbers as well.
Also, we're expecting this wasn't just a public hearing. This is a vote.
Well,
By the board.
and that you can do, as we've also had the district hearings as well. Just keep it open and reaffirm it.
Could you do me a favor and just take 30 seconds and go to the first line of your what-if scenario worksheet? And go down to the bottom where the chart is. I'm looking at a chart, for
Mhm.
those who can't see it. And just walk across one of those lines for us, will you? And remember, people can't see what you're looking at, so if you could explain that.
Sure. What I have here is a what-if scenario worksheet that kind of gives us an idea of what would happen to the tax rates, the share percentages, and the levy amounts as we choose to split the tax rate. The first line that I'm looking at has the CIP shift as a column header at 1.0. That is a residential factor of 1, and that's when we use a single tax rate. So the first line is what we normally do. The residential share percentage at that point is at 82. The commercial, industrial, personal property add up to 18% for 100%. And then it breaks down the actual levy amounts, or amounts per residential, commercial, industrial, personal property, for a total of 34,965,120, and that breaks down into the tax rate of 111.04. As we go down the chart, it breaks it down into 5% increments, and shows a shift in tax rate and value if we were to choose that. For an example, if we were to go to a 1.10 or a 10% shift, the residential factor would be at 97.8. This is actually very confusing on this left-hand side, so I want to cruise right over to the estimated tax rates on the
Okay.
right-hand side. And what you would see is that the residential tax rate would drop to $10.80, but on the other end of it, the commercial, industrial, and personal property rates would rise to $12.14. And that's basically what this chart does, is kind of show you what the shift would be.
And that's quite a difference.
It is,
Yeah.
it is.
It's
Especially
not,
when
it's
you.
not an equal up or down.
No, it
from what I
isn't.
can see.
No, it isn't. For every, and on your cover sheet, for every, I think it was 12 cents we saved the residential, we increased the commercial by 55 cents.
Right, that's a lot.
Now, our average, just, we did a quick thing, our average commercial property is, like 619,000. So we do have some new stuff coming into town, but that's not what our base really is. We have to look at the smaller businesses and everything.
Right.
And our average residential rounded up is 234,000. So,
Right, and when you say industrial, when you look at the percentages, when you say industrial, that's mostly, is that the
That would be
cranberry bogs?
no, industrial would be like manufacturing plants or, in the industrial parks. We don't have a ton of that.
So the commercial then would include all the cranberry bogs?
Yeah, commercial includes the chapter land, which would include the cranberry bogs.
Thank you.
Okay,
Very good, very good, thank you.
all right, so, we're not there yet. We're gonna get there at some point when we do split the tax rate.
Yes.
It's been coming for a bunch of years, and we're gonna get there, we're gonna be able to do this, and it is gonna save the residents money, and I'm in favor of saving the residents money. But, we're not there yet, so I'm in favor of I'm sorry. It's on.
It is now.
It wasn't.
I'm in favor of the one-to-one tax rate, or the even tax rate at this point. I will need another copy of the proposal you did, because I gotta put one in the record,
I've got one.
and then I wanna keep one myself.
Sure.
Okay, she just gave me another one, so we're good. So that's how I feel about it, and we'll deal with it as we go on. As time goes on, we're gonna get there, I know we are.
Well, when we do get there, there has to be, a lot of discussion on it, and we have to make sure that our CIP tax base can support it.
Well, that will be our decision, and when we
Absolutely.
get there.
Absolutely.
But we're headed in the right direction, and thank goodness we're headed in the right direction, because, as you well know, the town is pretty broke.
All set? It's all set.
So is its residents.
We probably, at the end of this fiscal year, should have enough on the tax rolls with all the new business coming in, probably 1 year later. I would suggest that maybe we look at, maybe this coming summer, we plan a few meetings to start to talk about this, do some planning, because it's not a simple discussion, it's not a simple answer. It's
Absolutely
actually
not.
quite complex
It is.
in nature. It looks simple on that sheet of paper, it's not. So I would suggest that we schedule out somewhere maybe in June, July, in that time frame that we start to talk about it and be proactive and have a game plan in place when we decide what we're gonna do.
All right, you gotta ask if anybody else out there wants to say anything.
Yes.
Anybody else want to speak for or against the tax rate? See nobody, I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano to close the hearing, second by Mrs. Whiteside. Any questions at all? All
Aye.
those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500.
I move we keep the single tax rate.
Second.
Mr. Chairman,
needs to
I
be-
believe your motion would be, I vote for the residential factor of
Of
1.
one.
Okay.
One.
Yeah, you're
Second.
right.
Correct.
Just to
You're
have the
right.
wording correct
I
for
move for a
motion.
residential factor of 1, you're absolutely right.
Second,
Do I have any questions from the board at all?
for the fiscal year 15.
2016.
2016.
No questions heard?
15.
Fiscal year 15.
Yeah, it's 15.
It is 15.
It'll be 15.
Now.
Now,
Now.
Aye.
Are we sure?
It's right here.
I know what it is, but we're in
it's,
the year 2015 now. Fiscal year.
this tax rate is for January, right?
Yes, you're voting on the residential
Because we-
factor for fiscal year 2015.
Yes.
Even though you're already in there paying the bills,
Correct.
the tax rate is for the actual bill going out January 1st.
Right.
So it will be for the
It's
fiscal
not
year
July.
2015.
And it won't be for,
Could you restate your motion for
it
the
won't be
record,
for
please?
July 1st.
I move the important thing is that I move for the tax period 2015, we keep the residential factor of 1.
One.
Second.
Thank you. Make it clear.
Yep.
Any other questions? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you
We'll
very
s-
much.
Thank you.
And we'll
And
see
again,
you later.
welcome to Wareham.
All right, back to citizens' participation. Anybody else? Come on down, ma'am. You're the next contestant.
Hi, my name is Nan Evans. I live in Onset. I've lived here for about 3 years, although we've been involved with Wareham since the 60s. I want to talk briefly about our favorite subject, the library. Just have a couple of comments I wanted to make. There's lots and lots of reasons why some of us think that the library is really important. And the one that I would like to talk to right now has to do with self-sufficiency. We all want people to be self-sufficient, to be able to take care of themselves, to do things for themselves and not be dependent on the rest of us. In order to do that, we have to give people tools. And the library provides a lot of the tools that we need. I know you can Google information and I find tons of stuff on online and everything, but to get really in-depth information about issues, you need to have books and you need to have the library. As a fairly new full-time resident, it really troubles me that we have had to cut back so far on the library. My mother in the 80s, when she first moved here, was very involved in getting the new library. And it just seems a shame to have lost that. And again, I just think it is really an important tool for people to have so that they can have access to information and with that information, increase their sufficiency, their self-sufficiency. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in.
I want to say one thing.
Go ahead.
All right, you know, I understand, and believe me, I appreciate the library and what it does and how important it is to the community. We all do. I think everybody up here does. And every week we have people coming here to speak. They're all out to, you know, support the library and whatever. And believe it or not, we up here are in the community and we support the library too. The unfortunate thing is we're limited by the number of dollars we have. So when we think about giving the library money, we have to think about what else can we cut. And believe it or not, if you take the school and the police department and you put those together, it leaves nothing in the budget, a minuscule amount of money that has to be spread out amongst all the other services. And the way the money is right now, there just isn't any money. You know, if there was money, believe me, if we had the money and it wasn't an issue, I think everybody up here would give more money to the library. I think they would, because we know how important it is. And we feel for it too. We live here. We feel for that. We feel for the people who enjoy it. We feel for the people who need it. But, you know, we don't make, I want you to understand that the decisions as far as money are concerned are not made to single out the library or single out this or that. We just only have so much money that we have to spread out. And a guy one time did a great thing, and I wish maybe I do have it, and I'll do it quickly, and I hate to take too much time, but this guy that I used to know, and you might know him, he was on the finance committee for years. He took a dollar bill and he says, all right, let's fold the dollar bill in half, and here's the school. That's what we have left. Then we fold it again like this. That's what we have left after the police department is out of there. if we, so you can see there's not much of that dollar left. And then if you just add like general services, I mean like being able to collect the money and, you know, and keep track of it and all that, and you fold it again like that, that's all the discretion sort of we have in what we spend for dollars. It's a very small amount. And unfortunately, at this particular time, especially as bad as the economy is, people aren't buying bigger cars, and you know, all that kind of stuff happens. We don't get enough money. And it's really about money. It's not about singling out the library or feeling, or not wanting the library. Everybody does. We do. And if there's some way that we can make it work, we will. I can promise you that. Everybody up here, I believe, is in that boat. Okay?
Yeah, I completely understand that, and I sort of put it in with the schools because the schools need the library because they don't have libraries, and it's just, and we need the police. It's
Yeah.
the problem is, as you say, there is not enough money. I don't know the answer to that. If
Yeah.
I did, I would
Yeah,
have to get
I
up
wish
here.
we, believe me, I wish I had enough money to spread around for everybody, and it was good. But, you know, if we did, if we didn't, we have to act responsible. We gave the people opportunity to do this. If you remember right, we asked them to participate more. They said, no, we don't want to participate anymore. This is the level we want you to have, so we have to deal with that level.
But
And
I
it-
think
and-
we have to
And it's sad,
keep it in the public eye.
and it's really sad.
Sort of try to teach people.
I appreciate it, though. I appreciate you coming and talking. Thank you.
Well,
Anybody
Mr.
else?
Chairman, whoa, stop right there. You heard one side, now about the other side? You didn't allow that?
Side, there's a side.
Yeah, there is a side. Absolutely, there's a side, my friend.
This is
It's point of
citizens
order.
The second side,
participation.
the second side of this is,
I don't want.
Patrick just gave a demonstration of a dollar bill.
Yeah.
Now, I forget the guy's name on the finance committee, but there are
Haney.
many finance committee people all around this country who say the issue is not folding the dollar, the issue is multiplying the dollar. And I happen to live in Onset. And I happen to be sitting there for the last 3 years watching projects that should have been built and should have been started that would have brought over $500,000 a year into this town in revenue. I don't think we get there by folding the dollar. I understand what Patrick's saying is true. How we get there is by increasing the number of dollars we get to fold. And that's, in my opinion, and in many's opinion, apparently, in the polls, that's not by raising taxes. It's by expanding business, expanding revenue opportunity. And when business people come to this town, and it takes them almost 3 years to get an answer from this board and other boards, that's a problem. So for us who live in Onset and have been living this for 3 years, we are upset, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, because we can't even get the boards in town to listen to us, to look at these opportunities. And so, while Patrick is right about folding the dollar, there are many of the opinion that we need to get more dollars to fold. That's all I'm saying.
In the
And you
future,
don't have to get that through a 2.5 override.
in the future going forward, citizens' participation is for the citizens to come forward and express their concerns. We do not have the ability to sit and answer. It's not on the agenda that way. I'll tolerate it today, no more. Thank you. Anybody else out there? Nobody heard? Let's go on to town business, please.
Okay. Appointments and interviews, I don't have any. We've had the hearing, license and permits, there's none. Eagle Scout project.
Come on up, please.
Dan Carnero, right?
Smile, it's all fun.
Hi, Dan, how are you?
Good evening.
Good, thank you.
Good
Okay,
evening, ladies.
You want
and-
to go ahead and explain what you want?
I was just.
Could
I'm
you
just here for
Pull the mic closer to you, bud. Thank you so much.
welcome. I'm here because I'm a member of Wareham's Troop 39, and I was hoping to get Eagle Scout by the age of 18, and so by doing that, I had to come up with a project on my own, and the project I decided to come up with because of all the studies I've seen about the American flags and being disposed into landfills. Instead of doing that, I feel that they should be all retired properly. So I have decided to come forward to you all and have a proposal for U.S. flag drop-off boxes so that they can be properly retired by the Boy Scouts and some veterans when we have our campouts. And hopefully also one select Saturday out of the year, which we can determine at a later date, we can have a townwide flag ceremony involving the Boy Scouts, the Cub Scouts, and some veterans who live in the town. I would like to place the boxes, 4 of them, and I'm open to other suggestions of if we need more. One of them would be for the police station, one at the VFW in Onset, one at the Center Cemetery, and one at the Town Hall. I have contacted the VFW in Onset, and they are reviewing my proposal. And I'm looking forward to contacting them soon to see if they have approved it or not. And if you'll see on the second page that I have 2 different pictures. The first one is an example of what the flag box would look like, and the bottom picture is an example of a marking that I'd put on the very top, and with that I would explain what it's for and how to properly use it. And the flag boxes would be about 2 feet by 4 feet, and it wouldn't cost any money to the town because everything would be through donations and gift cards and my stuff out of my own pocket as well.
May
I just want a couple things. You might want to check with the American Legion Post also. And the other 2 places, you may have already done that, is you have the Onset Fire Department and the Wareham Fire Department. I know the state police take flags and they dispose of them properly as well, but this would be a very nice thing to do. So basically, whatever we can do as a board, we will do for you.
All right, thank you.
Mrs. Whiteside?
Yes. Dan, first of all,
Mhm.
congratulations. Congratulations to your parents. They've obviously raised an extremely kind and worthy individual as a son. For those of you who don't know, to be an Eagle Scout, you have to have 21 merit badges. Only 7% of the kids who start as Boy Scouts become Eagle Scouts. This is one of 7% in the country. This young man has come before us with a fabulous proposal. Sorry about making you wait, but congratulations, and I'm behind you 110%. Thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Titlebaum?
It's, I guess life comes full circle. When I was a kid, I used to play trumpet, and the American Legion, during their flag disposal ceremonies, used to ask me to play taps as they were disposing of the flags. So it's interesting that 40-some years later, I'm back here again, hearing about the proper disposal of flags. Thank you for stepping up and taking on this task. It's very much appreciated by us.
You're welcome. And to answer Mr. Slavin's question, I have contacted the American Legion, but they rejected it only because they already have one put up. So,
Okay.
but I will take into consideration the Onset Fire Department and the fire department here in Wareham.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Holmes?
I think I'm glad I didn't know Mr. Titlebaum when he was a kid if he played the trumpet. I'm not sure how that sounded.
I hit the notes true but loud.
You did?
Oh, yes.
Well, maybe part of your project could be for your first annual Flag Day, maybe you invite Mr. Titlebaum to bring his trumpet, and he could play reveille, he could play taps for us at the flag collection service.
Yeah, that was once upon a time. I don't know about that anymore.
Great job. I only made it to Star, so I didn't get to Life or Eagle. Did you guys make the boxes too?
We will be as soon as we.
And that's the box
have
that
it.
you're going to make, the one
Yeah.
that looks like a flag
Yes.
in the picture? Outstanding, great job.
Thank you. And also, I am the bugler for my own troop as well, so.
Are you?
Oh, so you could give Mr. Titlebaum some lessons
you
before
go.
the annual event. I look forward to hearing that. And I think Sean has a trumpet at home you could practice with, Peter.
I think the Boy Scouts add a lot to our lives. It's such a nice organization. I was a scout myself a gazillion years ago now, it seems. A leader at one point, the whole 9 yards. I went through the whole process, and it's just a terrific organization. And you are a terrific young man for stepping up to the plate, seeing something that needed to be done, and filling it. Really very nice, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask at this time that the board, we get up and go over to the gentleman and shake his hand and take a picture with him, please. Next up, we have the review of a junk license.
Yes,
Dealer's
Mr. Lewis,
license.
come on down.
This is a request by Mr. Lewis to reconsider the restrictions on the license that we issued.
All right, so I have a little letter here. I don't know if you guys read this or was it in your packet. It says, "To whom it may concern, at the Selectmen's meeting on Tuesday, October 28th, 7 p.m., 3245 Cranberry Highway, there are restrictions. I agreed to these restrictions, and may ask him if we could get one lifted. If we could put 3 or 4 items on the grassy knoll consisting of bicycles or small furniture, nothing would be put in the driveway or in any way obstruct foot traffic. We will comply with all other restrictions. My business has dropped off due to the bridge construction. Thank goodness, by the way, the bridge is open now.
Amen. Whew. Yes.
If I could get this lifted, my business should increase."
Thank you.
So that's the request.
Stop, Mr. Titlebaum.
Well, once again, I'll express my surprise that you're back here before us so soon after we set the original conditions. Personally, I'm not inclined to vote in favor of this.
Mrs. Whiteside?
I will echo Mr. Titlebaum's comments. I've driven by the location several times. I have to say that the strip is beginning to look a whole lot better, and I really don't think adding to your license at this point makes any sense at all.
Mr. Holmes?
I'm glad to see that you're doing well.
Thank you, sir.
I'm glad to see that the bridge.
Yes.
Well, you weren't there during most of the project, only at the end, right? So
Well,
think
it
about the
hurts.
poor bastard next to you who had to sit there through all
Yes.
this time. I think that the reason I asked for that restriction wasn't personal.
Oh, I understand.
Just so
this,
you
sir.
know.
I understand.
I have the same issue on Main Street
Correct.
in Wareham.
Mhm.
I have the same issue with people putting these things outside.
Okay.
And if I really wanted to push it, I'm sure Mr. Bowen, if we instructed him, could go we already have this written down somewhere, this stuff's not supposed to be outside in the first place.
Okay.
So I would say just let it go, and let's, we
Well-
can look at it down the road, but we really don't want things outside.
Okay.
It was not personal.
At this point, as of the first year, I have to surrender both of my business. I've lost one store already. I'm supporting my family of two at home.
Having, with all
it-
due respect, my friend, having a couple items on the grass isn't gonna turn your business around that much.
I disagree with that, sir,
Oh.
because up and down that avenue, there's several locations where they have numerous pieces out. I've never left the products out at night. I always bring it in. There's
We're going-
abandoned boats. There was
I'll let you
restrict-
finish. I'm sorry for
I'm sorry, no
interrupting you.
problem. There was abandoned boats, there's cars up there for sale, there were junk cars out on the avenue, and I agree with you to clean up the avenue, 110%. And I am doing my share of that, and my past performance is true. You yourself said, sir, that junk license, there is 5 of them issued in this town, and I appreciate having one of these junk license. However, there is over 150 vendors within 1/8 of a mile on Cranberry Highway. None of these people they're in the same business as me. I sell used furniture,
Yeah.
household goods, and there's 150 other dealers out there with no license. I mean, I don't understand this.
We're coming to a town near you, sir. We got you in,
Yes,
licensed, properly licensed now,
and I
correct?
appreciate that. and I
So
appreciate
you're on the good side,
that. Yes, and I agree.
and you
with
have
that.
one of the 5.
Okay.
So just,
Uh,
my colleagues supported me, and I appreciate their support again today.
Mhm.
And I think we just need to leave it the way it is.
Okay.
In 6 months or next year, if we all want to sit down and talk about it again, but my mission is to get rid of these businesses that are unlicensed, and junk licenses are not supposed to have stuff out on display.
Okay,
And it's not just your license that has that restriction,
right.
but I'm sure that we could find that bylaw if we looked hard enough.
And within the last 2 months, there are
Well, I'm talking about, this bylaw's been around for years, it's
Yes.
not new.
Okay, but in the last 2 months, there are 3 locations just
I don't
opened
think
up.
we're interested in anything except what's before us, which is your license.
Okay, okay.
Mr. Tropiano?
I'm all set.
Well, basically, what I can see is the board, at least 4 members, that definitely don't want to make any change at this time. I will make a comment. I've been by the business probably 3 times in the last week and a half. There's usually a small trailer and 2 box trucks. It's very difficult to see the business at all right now, the way
Okay.
you've got it set up, just so you
It's
know.
a small area, and I agree. However, we have trailers to remove any debris and so forth.
I'm just
and
letting you know
hung
that
up on
right now, there's almost no place to put anything, so
okay.
part of the problem is people really, you can go by your facility, you
Well,
can't even see you there.
It's a 6x8 on the knoll that's between Water Street and my location
I
there. It's
understand.
very, very small. That's all I was asking for.
Mhm.
If that can't be done, well, we'll just move on to the next stage, that's all.
At this point here, we're gonna have to wait.
Okay. Thank you for your
Thank you
time.
very much, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving to you too, sir. Sorry.
Okay, next up is the request of CPC funds by the Wareham Harbor Master.
Before we start this, Gary, come on up. I just want to explain what we're doing now so everybody understands. This is the procedure by the Selectmen's policy. Any department of the town that is looking to get CPA funding has to go before the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee to get a letter of approval to apply for funding from CPC. All this we're doing at this point here is strictly looking at any proposal to make sure it's financially feasible for the town. We're not making a decision whether we like or dislike the project or anything else at this time. It's just, is this project feasible for the town of Wareham at this time financially? The next step, we have 2 more shots at it. One is when we decide to put it on the warrant or not, and the third one is when we vote favorable or unfavorable action. Thank you. Go
Thank
ahead,
you.
Gary.
Good evening. Just to back up the gentleman's flag collection, I don't mean to get off topic, but our office deals with 8,000 to 10,000 people coming through with the stickers that are going in for dumps and trash, and I think it's a good spot to help out with the collection of flags since it's a landfill disposal.
right behind you.
No, I will touch base with them, so. I am proposing, to rebuild the onset boat ramp to basically make it the same size it is now. I've handed, a packet to you, which actually has our, notice of intent in it. I don't know if it had the design set up in the rear of the packet, but it'd be a single lane ramp. It mimics the exact width, size, pitch, as the existing ramp now. The deterioration of the ramp is getting to the point where we have to really think about what we're going to do with this. We have undermining, we have fractures in the concrete. They've used asphalt over the years to fill in some of the holes, rebars rusting, and that's causing the expansion, and it just keeps fracturing the concrete. So we do have a safety concern that we're looking at. The original ramp was built in 1962. Into 1963 it was opened, and not much has been done with it since. The project does not expand past the parking lot. It's strictly a boat ramp. No docks, no piers. It's not a double lane ramp. It's what you see right now. It would be new. I also received word that we're going to be getting some funding. I applied for monies through the Bouchard oil spill fund, and I requested 75 of the small pot of money that they had, and I believe we got 67,000 of it. So I'm just looking for the finalization.
My questions would be, what is the cost of the town maintaining that particular facility? Will there be a fee or anything which will generate money to offset?
I think we would have to operate it the same way as we operate Tempest Knob. You don't get charged a fee to launch your boats. That's not something. It's strictly for vehicles parking. Currently, we sell stickers for vehicles parking around it. I think the yearly maintenance would have to be something that comes under the Waterways Fund, and we could maintain it through our department.
Have we used state funding at all, or we have not?
No, we have not.
So therefore, there is no reason why that particular boat ramp cannot be a Wareham resident-only boat ramp.
I don't think that's a.
There is.
Explain.
That's decree land.
It's decree land?
Yep.
Okay, that answers that. So we can't charge for it either. That answers my question.
You can charge to park, but you can't charge to use.
So basically, we have some expense that the town will have to incur. Hopefully, the waterway funds would be sufficient to cover that.
Yes, and I think that you're looking at 30 years again on a ramp that's properly installed. I mean, there's some. When they built the existing ramp now, they didn't put in the new factors that they currently do with the ramps with the wash pad, which stops people from powering up on their boats, and it deflects the wash rather than undermines a ramp. Tempest Knob has the same setup.
Thank you. Mr. Titlebaum.
Would it be at all fair to say that with a new ramp, you would actually incur less maintenance expense at this point in time, since right now you're trying to patch something that's falling apart?
Yes, I think we have an irreparable ramp right now. It's not in good condition.
Mrs. Whiteside?
I would like to point out how old the ramp is. There was an attempt when it was about 20-some-odd years old to have some repairs done to it and was turned down by a town meeting. But now you have different sources of funding, and it clearly is a safety hazard if you don't get it done. So I'm in support of, first of all, you've done an enormous amount of homework on it, and you've contacted all of the appropriate parties. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Holmes?
Hey, Gary, how much did you spend this past year on repairs to the ramp?
We haven't touched anything on it because of we have to pull the permits for it.
Right.
How much did you spend last year on the?
We didn't spend anything on it.
How about the year before that? So we haven't
Year
spent any
before
money
that,
on
no.
repairs. So this is new money that we would have to put in every year into the repair budget. If you're not spending any money now and you haven't in the last 3 or 4 years.
Well, that's the problem with the past, is we've gotten all these great assets put into our town and rebuilt our infrastructure, and then nobody's put in a maintenance plan to
Precisely.
operate what's going on. So that's what I'm trying to do.
So well, that's what you're trying to do. I understand that. But so where is the money? What are you going to plan per year to put in?
Well, yearly maintenance, I mean, there aside from just inspecting the ramp for wear and tear and
I wouldn't think there'd be
There
very
There
much.
wouldn't be any at all for quite some time.
You don't offer, there's no facilities there, there's no, maybe a light. Have you given any consideration, have you had any discussions with the folks down there who live around that area in terms of this project and the fact that it is kind of scummy there with the drain pipes coming out and the kids swimming around there and all that? Is this an introduction to start kind of a meeting that way with those folks and see if maybe we can I see everybody shaking their head now.
I think it's a
So-
ramp that's used by, it's our,
But you know what I'm talking about. We got drains coming out there and
yeah, I
everything
mean, I
else.
have nothing to do with the drainage that ran into there. There was a stormwater collection system that was put in there several years ago. If you're looking out into the water, there's 2 pipes on the left-hand side,
On
going.
the left.
Yep,
right?
if you're looking straight out, that was put in for the water collection system that's underneath the boat ramp.
And I think there's one on the right.
2,500 feet of,
There's one on the right.
and there's one on the right, and that was
And then
tied
we
into
just,
the.
and then we just drag all that water out from the mobile park on the right too. There's
Correct.
a second piece on the right.
Yep.
And I know they've been very angry about having those storm drains around there with kids swimming there and everything else. And I guess I'm asking you both as the harbor master and in terms of this project, is there a way that we can try to secure some money to maybe do a little better protection of the kids around the pipes and put this in all at the same time and tie it all together?
Yeah, and I think that's
Yeah.
something that's tied in through the stormwater projects that go on. So Director Menard should have some insight on that one. But for us, putting markers out and navigational aids and things like that, I have no problem with that. That's
Yeah. This
fine by me.
doesn't, just so I understand, Steve, under the waterways bylaws, et cetera, it doesn't fit on there. What it would be is municipal maintenance with stormwater management plan, which we're also working on. The beach area itself there, in theory, at least from the town's point of view, is not a swimming beach to start with, but we still have an issue there. We're trying to fix something that was done and didn't work out well. This is
Actually,
Whiteside.
I have information from a town report that I recently reviewed. In fact, it was today. And that, in fact, is a town beach. I've been doing some homework in the oldies. It's a town beach.
Okay, we listed as not a town beach anymore, that's the
There's not
problem.
any sand there.
It's a beach.
Peter's
The water
done a
goes
lot
right
of
up to the
research on
parking
that
lot. There's
decree
no
land.
sand there.
Is that a beach or not?
It's in the decree area. It's part of the lands that were described in the original decree. So it's still subject to those restrictions. My opinion is that a boat ramp is consistent with the decree's purpose to set aside those public beach areas for beaching, bathing, and boating purposes. The one thing that I'd like to ask the harbor master about is, I know at Tempest Knob, there's a sign reciting Code of Mass regulations, DEP regulations, about swimming within X distance of a launching facility. And does that distance, that 150-foot distance that's part of the Code of Mass regs, also apply to a smaller ramp like this?
I think it would be flipped around with a Chapter 90B and CMR 323 for boat operation. So, boat operators have to be aware that, if they're within an area that's being used for bathing, they have some distances and speeds that they have to abide by. So, and that ties in for your whole coastline. So, when we put swim lines out, we're not putting swim lines out to tell us bathers they can swim to that point. We're putting swim lines out
Keep
as
the boaters
as
out.
as a private aids navigation to tell
Right.
boaters that this area is being identified for bathing. So, however, we have coastlines everywhere that we don't that abut town property that we don't mark for swimming purposes.
I was just wondering if
Yeah.
these drainage pipes were within any exclusionary zone around the ramp.
No, the only thing they affect is our shellfishing, from my standpoint.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, so, Mr. Chairman,
Go
to
ahead.
just finish that, we've spent a lot of money in time down in that area, and I'm just hoping that maybe you know, with this project, we can maybe get some visual aids or something to go along with this to try to clean up the appearance there, at least dress it up, you
Absolutely.
know.
I
And I think that would make a lot of us happy, a lot of the different people who live there and have to look at that every day pretty happy. So, and we got time. I mean, you know, it's November. This is for April. This is for April town meeting, right?
It would be for April, and then I think it would be the following.
Because this has to
the
go,
money's
this is a
issued.
town meeting.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Correct. And we still have to wait for Bouchard to finally figure out what they are doing with the funding. So if I want to spend as much money as they're going to give me on it, and then whatever I can get out of CPC, I can turn back what we don't spend, which is a benefit to the town.
Right.
So
And maybe if you could just do a little research and figure out what, and you know, if we can go down there and meet, I'd be happy to go down there and push that.
if you take a ride through Tempest Knob, if you go to Swiss Beach, if you go to Swiss Neck, you go to Little Harbor, and when you first drive in, you see the new signs that are posted. What I did this year was actually remove all of the old rusted steel posts and old orange signs and consolidated all of the wording on the multiple signs that we had there, put it all onto one nice sign that we had a graphic designer set up, and we have nice entrance points now at all these locations. They've got white pillars, the signs are dark green, it's got the town seal on it, you know, it notifies you of, you know, alerting who for emergencies, and it gives you the regulations which are on the beach. So we try to make all the signs uniform now, and it was part of our approach to try and identify our public access points to the waterways. And I like the fact that we've cleaned them up to the point where these areas are streamlined now, and you pull in, it actually looks classy, not signs sticking out all over the place. Lots of
Yeah,
pier
I'll be sure to check that out. Now, because of the decree land, do we have to dance around this as renovation, Peter? Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Titlebaum?
No.
I'm only asking you, and I don't normally do that, but I know that you've
Yeah,
got thousands of hours of research on this decree issue.
So it would seem. The decree specifically references the coastline lands as areas that were to be protected forever for, quote, beach bathing and boating purposes. And so, you know, you can get some tension sometimes when you choose one purpose over another amongst those three. People who, for example, are used to sunning themselves on a beach might squawk if you tried to put in a new boat ramp down there, for example. But the uses are not inconsistent with the decree. They may be inconsistent with each other in terms of a matter of public policy, but in terms of whether it's legal to rebuild the boat ramp or even put in a boat ramp, it is.
Okay. So you don't have to worry about that.
No.
And we want to, I mean, I don't want to, we know the boat ramp does have neighbors, and we do want to respect their privacy as well. So, I mean, there are people that are allowed there. They launch at 5 a.m. and they hoot, holler, yell, swear, whatever happens. And unfortunately, we can't stop everybody from doing that. But, I think right now, with the parking program and the permitting that's required for the vehicles parking, you might be curving a lot of just the people coming in and launching and taking off. I mean, as much as I've had people tell me that they want the boat ramp gone, they want it closed and turned back to a cove, and
Really?
I just
I don't get much of that.
It's been a very interesting few weeks. I've had some very interesting things take place regarding this. I won't even get into it, but I think we can streamline it a little bit with the parking program and the stickers of launching in that area. Lighting is key down there. It doesn't get used much at night, so.
I support it, Mr. Chairman. I think that if Mr. Buckminster, with some help, I'd be happy to help him if we look into some of those other issues around that boat ramp at the same time. Maybe we could kill 3 or 4 birds with one stone. Thank you very much for this work, Gary.
What I'd recommend, Gary, is that you get a hold of Dave Menard and find out with the MS4 projects to see if there's any grants, and maybe lop something together that way. Any other questions from the board? I'd ask for a favorable vote so I can write a letter.
So moved.
Move, second.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 5-0-0. The board will write a,
And the amount is $100,000.
correct.
Correct.
The board will write a letter to CPC to let them know that you've been approved to go ahead. You still need to
Next.
probably see the FinCom, I think, tomorrow.
Good. You'll need a copy, see FinCom on that letter as well.
I know.
Mr. Chairman, is he stuck on that number?
He can only use that amount.
No, is he stuck on that number based on that vote?
The motion was just to approve him to go forward.
Without a number?
Right.
The motion doesn't have a number. I
Right.
thought I
Right.
heard Mrs. Whiteside say for 100,000.
No,
That's
just
what
let
he's-
me know that's what he's asking.
That's
not what we're doing.
what he believes it may cost.
That
He
number
could end
gets-
up asking for 105, and that's not a problem, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
That number gets assigned once he actually files with CPC for an actual grant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
Gary.
Open Space Committee.
Mr. Slavin.
Can you come down, Mrs. Slavin? This is about money for the Oakdale Playground.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. We are the Open Space Committee. I'm Sandy Slavin.
Trenton Blanchard, Joe Leggett.
We are asking permission to submit a CPA grant request to redo and rehab the Oakdale Playground.
Same basic question, cost the town going forward?
Well, currently, I do not expect to be any additional maintenance. Currently, the maintenance department mows that field, and after it's rehabilitated, they will still be mowing the same field.
I would probably believe, seeing that what we've done ourselves, plus the residents there, that they'll probably be doing a lot of work on their own as well.
The community support for this particular project has been overwhelming, and that is the primary reason why Open Space Committee chose to do the Oakdale Playground as the first of our rehabs of our 21 playgrounds.
Thank you. I have no problem with this at all. Mr. Titlebaum?
Great idea.
Mrs. Whiteside?
Great idea, and congratulations to the community.
It's
Mr.
that
Holmes?
neighborhood.
Is the, well, I guess I could ask the same questions I asked Mr. Buckminster, but I know the answer is the same, 000. So the plan is to go out and get this money, do the renovations, and do the upgrades, don't provide the support. In 5 years, they're asking for another 10 grand, Sandy. Is there a way that we can make that happen, that other than cut grass, that we could get some of that money in annual support for the playground?
The answer is no. Community preservation cannot be used for maintenance. We cannot use CPA funds for maintenance. But Mr. Holmes, I do expect that once this is upgraded, I really do think the neighborhood and the community will support and maintain the playground as being submitted. I mean, we're trying to do neighborhood playgrounds first, where the neighbors have indicated a desire to upgrade their local facilities. And one of it is that they will be responsible for the maintenance. If something is broken, they try to fix it. They speak to Mr. Menard if something didn't happen that should have, like mowing. But we have our playgrounds. We have 21 of them in town, and this is just the first one. Next BOS meeting, you will be hearing from BL companies who have finally completed our recreation study.
All right.
So you will have, it will be presented to you at the next meeting, and we use their input. We've used the input from the neighborhoods. You have in front of you the long list of things that want to be done. It's now up to the Open Space Committee with the neighborhoods to define the cost of each of those projects and come down with a well-thought-out, planned development to rehab that place.
Do they allow for spending, maybe not for maintenance, if you will, but do they allow for administrative dollars in these projects?
Could very well be, but we're just here to see if you will
I
accept it.
know what you're here for,
Yeah.
but I'm here for a bigger picture. Mr. Bowen, through you, Mr. Chairman. Don't answer the question specifically, but I think you get my point.
They have admin in the CPC program. The CPA provides in their program admin funds, which they have as a separate item that they vote on every year.
Okay. I'm just trying to, because I understand what you're saying, but I also understand that if you go down that road, and you don't supply the maintenance as a town, and you rely on volunteers to work on town property, you could get, something could happen, and that would be unfortunate.
Has happened before, that's why.
Yeah,
Slater.
And
and
that
so,
is-
and that's why I'm saying if there was some way, right? So if something did break, well, you can't ask the neighbors to pay for it, although there are many who would write a check, I know. And then Mr. Menard can't pay for it, and something happens, we got a problem. All I'm trying to do is try to find a way in some of these programs, we just talked about it with Gary,
Maintenance.
where it's great to get the money, but then, you know, next year, and the year after, and the year after, where's the money come from for the support, right?
Mrs. Whiteside.
Now, you can't say support's free.
I have to speak in favor of this program, but I also have to compliment the Oakdale community. They had 2 cleanup days that were attended, unfortunately not by me, although I was part of the organization. There were more than 50 people who signed waivers to work on town property, who mowed, who picked up, who raked, who did whatever needed to be done. And it was done over a 2-weekend period of time. So I'm guessing there was over 500 man-hours, woman-hours put in by the community before the Open Space Committee actually even toured the field. The Open Space Committee invited the community to come while they toured it, they being the Open Space Committee, and I have to say that other than freezing to death, it was blowing about 90 and it was about 30 minus degrees. There were 20 people there, including children playing on the playground, who met with the Open Space Committee. They have come together as a community. They had already done pickups. They've already done all of this stuff. In order to do work on town property, you have to sign a waiver, and they all did that. You have to be a grown-up. You have to be over 18. They all were. They arranged at no cost to the town for a porta potty. They had food. They had all sorts of stuff. I compliment the community, and I would suggest that this is the beginning of, you got to be kidding me, guys. It's our town, and take it back. That's why the group worked on the field, on the playground, and they're out there every day picking stuff up. So I understand where you're coming from, Mr. Holmes. Nothing's been done on that field for 40 years, except what's been really, done by the community. And I applaud the community, and I hope that other communities around playgrounds follow their example. And I don't mean to be long-winded, but you guys are really being long-winded, so I might as well be long-winded too.
Thank you. We'll need a motion again to go ahead with this one.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Titlebaum, second by Mrs. Whiteside. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, 500. Thank you very much. And again, thank the community.
Can I just make one point?
If you'd like to.
I just want to make one point because, we had the issue earlier with the library and all that, and, they want money. And I think a lot of people out there who are watching this might think that we are spending town money
We're not.
for recreation and other things instead of having a library, instead of doing whatever. But that's not the case. This CPA money was voted in by the community. It comes out of the taxes. Property taxes, it's a percentage, it's 3%, I believe, that gets put aside for specific uses that we can't touch for anything else. So this money that is being used is money that can't be used in the budget anywhere else. Can't be used for libraries, can't be used for town hall, can't be used for schools, can't be used for anything. There are specific guidelines for what CPA funds can be used for, and I know one is open space, one is recreation, which, by the way, I think they only added like a year or so ago, right?
Yeah, it's just very
They only added very recently. Those are the kinds of things. So this money is money that can't be used for anything else, okay? So I don't want anybody to think that we're not giving any money to the library, but we're building, recreation facilities. Just want to make that clear. All right, thank you.
It's also, just so we understand, the CPA program is used also to buy land, to put into preservation. It's used also to restore historic buildings, which of course Town Hall has some work done that way as well. There are many different uses, but it falls under that particular genre.
Okay,
Next,
next is discussion with the school superintendent and members of the school committee, RE construction of tennis courts.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Is your paper different than my paper?
Are you all ready? Oh, yeah.
Hey, Jeff.
So I'm here in two capacities. One as the high school girls tennis coach, and also as a result of the vote that was taking place last Wednesday evening representing the school committee. I am also here with Dr. Kimberly Shaverhood and Nicole Russo, who I gratefully appreciate both their times, but perhaps particularly the students. And Nicole is the captain of the girls' tennis team for this spring. First, I'd like to describe what I would like to do with CPA and private funds. You have before you a diagram of on the left side is the southern side of the middle school. What we would like to do is construct 3 additional tennis courts for use by the community and the middle and the high school. The location was determined after a great deal of discussion with the principal of the high school and the principal of the middle school, as well as the athletic director and, of course, the superintendent. It has the full support of both of those principals plus the athletic director. The rectangle that you see is 156 feet by 120 feet. The direction of the courts is specifically north-south because as a result of the impact of sun when you're playing tennis, you do not want to make courts east-west, you want to make them north-south. So even though you could theoretically create east-west tennis courts, you would not want to play at them on certain times of the day. The good news is that we almost had a perfect amount of space to put these tennis courts. The bad news is, in order to fit them, we had to go over the driveway that is between the field and the southern exposure of the middle school. That wasn't a problem for the principal, even though it is used once a day for buses prior to the pickup of students. But it was a problem with the Wareham fire chief, because on the drawings it specifically says fire lane. So in my discussions with the fire chief, who was very supportive, he said you really have 2 solutions. You can either reroute the road so it's that much closer to the school, or, and I admire his creativity, he said, why don't you just build 2 gates on either side of the tennis courts, and we'll drive through as necessary in those rare occasions where we actually have to use it as a fire lane. So in the proposals that you have in front of you, it includes the fact that on the eastern side of the courts, which is the top of the drawing that you see, there would be a very large gate that will accommodate a fire truck going through it. And on the western side, there will be a similar gate that, as he said to me, Just create the gates, lock them, and give me the key, and we're good. So that's the fire chief, and I take Chief McDuffie at his word, and I admired his creativity. And fortunately, tennis courts are extremely well built, and driving over them will not be a problem. So that's a description of what we want to do in terms of location and in terms of number of courts. There is another issue which has actually existed for quite a number of years, but it's only recently become popular, and that is, and I draw your attention to this diagram, which you should have already received, but I handed you another copy, which shows an analysis, a financial analysis of the difference between creating asphalt courts and concrete courts. Now, don't be confused by the term concrete. You would not be able to tell it was concrete when you played on it and when you looked at it. But in fact, the base is concrete instead of asphalt. And it's not just concrete, it's something called post-tension concrete, and they run cables through the concrete to prevent it from cracking, which is the bane of every hard court's existence. So I went to the premium, I think it's fair to say, perhaps even in the Northeast, certainly New England, premium builder of tennis courts, and for that matter, track systems as well, Cape and Island Tennis and Track. And I asked them about building these courts. And they sent me a proposal for post-tension concrete. I was initially extremely enthusiastic about this because the periodic maintenance of these courts is much less. Meaning, basically, you're only repainting them periodically, and other than that, they never crack. I was less enthusiastic when I got the price tag. And the price tag was $268,000, as you can see in your proposal. I then said, okay, I was expecting that to be considerably less. Please give me a proposal for asphalt. He did, and at the same time he gave me this analysis which told me that I would save $200,000 over a 30-year period if I went with concrete instead of asphalt. I am too much of a finance person to accept numbers at face value, and so I looked at his assumptions. And I also did a net present value analysis of this whole project from the point of view of what we would be spending over 30 years and when we would be spending it over that 30-year period. And it's true that if you use his assumptions, you save not $200,000 on a net present value basis, you save about $174,000 on a net present value basis, which is still a substantial sum, and it's still a reason to go with concrete. But then I looked at his assumptions, and his assumptions were that at the end of 20 years, the asphalt courts would be worthless. And I said to Mr. Palladino, what year, and I knew the answer, but I just confirmed, what year were our courts built? And he said 1991. Well, that's 23 years ago, and they're not worthless. So if you have good construction in the beginning, asphalt courts still make sense. So I then recomputed the net present value analysis based on the fact that, yes, there would be cracks to repair over the course of time, and even Cape and Islands, and I used their assumptions, said that the crack repair should be about every 7 years. So I used their assumptions, including the inflating those assumptions based on the inflation over time, and instead of saving $174,000 by going with concrete, we save $41,000 by going with asphalt. So given that the initial price tag is substantially less, meaning $179,000 versus $268,000, given the fact that I have a great deal of difficulty thinking past 30 years for obvious reasons, and I'll leave it to Miss Russo over there to be, maybe she'll be the future coach of the Wareham girls tennis team in 30 years. She can't think that far ahead either. But the bottom line is I thought thinking 30 years out was enough. And based on my analysis, I am no longer, as much as I admire the technology, and my brother is an architect and he says it's outstanding technology, I think post-tension concrete courts are just too expensive. I would add that I went to look at 2 post-tension concrete courts at an elementary school in Mattapoisett, but they were only a year or so old, and it's hard to tell much other than they looked really good. So that's the somewhat longer than I anticipated version of what we want to do, and specifically as it pertains to the materials, as to why we want to do it. We play 18 matches against 9 different competitors, both the girls' team as well, obviously, as the boys' team. With the exception of, first of all, we have the fewest courts of any of the teams that we play. One of them has 4 courts. That is the Joseph Case Regional School out in, where is that place? Somewhere
Swansea.
way out 195. Swansea? Thank you. And there are a couple other places that may have as few as 5. The vast majority have 6 courts. Why 6? There are 2 fundamental reasons. One is that if you have 6 courts, you're not playing in the dark, because tennis matches can go a long time, and you can only put 3 out in Wareham, and then you wait for them to finish before you put the other 2 matches, because there are 5 matches to a varsity match. In addition to the fact that we love to get our younger players involved, and matches predominate, and even during practice, the girls' team has been very lucky, or I've been, I should say, very lucky, that we have 15 to 20 or more girls try out for the tennis team. And you try putting 20 active athletic girls on 3 courts, and it just really doesn't work very well. My fellow coaches don't really understand how we manage both the boys and the girls in Wareham. So from the point of view of active participation of the team members, and from the point of view of actually completing our matches before it's starting to get dark, and allowing the JV team, although it's an unofficial JV team, to participate in those matches, it just makes sense to have 6 courts. The other thing that if Mr. Palladino and Mr. Minkle were here would say is, when they use courts for physical education, it is routine for me to be there and to be observing about half the people in the physical education class sitting around waiting, because there's just no way to fit all those people on 3 courts. I would also say that I was the beneficiary of being asked to work with some 5th and 6th graders today, this past fall. There are lots of both boys and girls waiting to play tennis at the high school level, and even the 8th grade level, because we are now going to be, along with all the other sports, applying for a waiver so 8th graders can participate. So I expect it to be a very popular venue, both for team members as well as for physical education. And then finally, it is not unusual to see those courts fully used by the community. And every time the team is using them in the summertime for clinics, that means the community members can't use them. And they are entitled to something that, as I tell the team, more often than they probably want to hear, this is a sport for life. You can play it when you're old and ancient like myself, and you can play it even beyond that. And I think, unlike a golf sport, this is relatively inexpensive and a lot more exercise per hour. So I think it's a great community resource, and one that we should encourage. Finally, in terms of what it will cost, I've given you the 2 numbers. I am asking not for the post-tension concrete $268,000. I'm asking for the approval of the $179,000, call it, the school committee approved $180,000, and I'm only asking for the CPC to come up with half of that. There will be private funds to support the other half, fully matching dollar for dollar whatever the CPC comes up with in order to support this project. So with that, you have 3 people here who would be very happy to answer your questions. Oh, I would add one more thing, which came as somewhat of a surprise, but perhaps I shouldn't have been. When Fields and Grounds found out what we were interested in doing, they said, great, it'll cost a whole lot less to take care of 3 new tennis courts than it will a grassy field. So the actual impact on Fields and Grounds is positive from a financial perspective.
You've always, thank you.
Chris, please, your voices are traveling.
Thank you for all the work you've put into this. This is quite a comprehensive proposal you have. In terms of public access to the tennis courts, what is the present policy in terms of hours when people have access to the tennis courts?
Unless the team is practicing, which is the third week of March, the third Monday in March through the end of May, from 2:30 to, the boys finish probably about 6:37. So that's let's call it a two-month period of time. Unless it's during that period of time, there is 100% access. If I want to use it for a clinic, I go through the same process that everybody else does, which is I go to the superintendent's office and I sign up and et cetera.
Right. And the same will apply to any new courts that are built, correct?
I don't
of
pretend
access?
to have the authority to even control the access. Maybe the superintendent feels she has the authority, but my philosophy is that it should be 100% accessible by any resident.
Yeah, that's the only, and it's not a sticking point, that's the only clarification I wanted to hear, because where community preservation funds are used for recreation, there does have to be that public access component. So I just wanted to make sure that there was currently public access, because that would tend to ensure future public access.
I wouldn't have it any other way. There is occasionally a lock on the gate. I'm not talking about the fire lane lock.
Right.
There's occasionally a lock on the gate after the nets come down. And the reason Fields and Grounds puts it on, because they're trying to discourage it from being used for things like with hockey sticks and skateboards,
Right.
et cetera.
That's just simply for preservation of the
Yes.
surface. It's not to exclude the public from playing
It's
tennis.
not in any way to exclude the public.
You're not finding a large tennis playing public seeking to be out there in January.
I've actually played in January, but no.
Thank you.
Mrs. Whiteside?
Can you tell me, please, how many participants in the sport at the varsity level, both genders, today? Or
Well, last
last
year's
season,
team,
yep.
last year's team, I believe there were 15, and at the boys' level, I'm speaking for my good friend Dave Robertson, I think it was approximately 8 or 9.
Okay. Are you aware, and I know you are, so I know the answer to my question. When the high school was first built, there were land set aside at the far end of the track,
Yes,
and that was supposed to have been dedicated for tennis courts.
yes.
Can you tell me why you wouldn't want to put the courts there, one? Well, then I have other questions.
Actually, my original idea, after Mr. Palladino uncovered the drawings, beautiful drawings of 5 courts, and that after I walked it off to really believe that it was going to fit, was to do precisely that, to abandon that spot. Maybe we could make a hockey rink out of the 3 courts or something and put 5 brand new courts. That was my original idea. But it turns out the popularity of that field, even though it's not regulation length for soccer or any other, is too high, and it lacked the support of the 2 principals. So I was deterred, and therefore I moved to the other location, which, although it is occasionally used by cheerleaders and band, I'm told there are other places they could go. So that's the reason we did not use that nicely laid out architectural, and they date 1990.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, they did 2000, sorry, 2000.
Okay.
2000.
I believe that not only do the Tiger cheerleaders, the band, and what I would call recess, free time kids use that. During the summertime, that field that you're proposing to put courts on is used by virtually every child who attends a summer league baseball game. So you're cutting down, I guess, on grass for the benefit of your numbers, 21 kids. That's just a comment. The drawings,
Can I,
No. If you were to have 2 sets of courts in use, you still only have 1 gym teacher. That 1 gym teacher may have 40 kids. I'm not sure that that's going to be, if you're saying that the gym classes are now going to be spread across 2 courts, you're going to have another gym teacher. Because you can't have kids here and kids here without grown-up supervision. I guess my real concern, my really, really, really big concern is you couldn't get a fire engine down there. Yes, they can take the fence down. They can drive right through the fence. But why would you put a fence there if it's access to the public? And to, I guess, further reinforce that question, I note on your specs, it says, please note, do not use black-soled shoes. Use only flat-soled, no knobs, tennis shoes, known as white soles. Hockey sticks, black-soled sneakers, rollerblades, bike tires, and skateboards will mark or damage the court surface. How are you going to police that unless the courts are locked?
can I speak now?
Sure.
Oh, thank you. First of all, while you accurately counted up my 15 plus 8 or 9, there are lots of community members who use those tennis courts. And insofar as if I can coach 2 locations at once, I think gym teachers can they're not that far apart. If you tell me it's illegal to do so, I'll respect that knowledge, but I have the superintendent here who can tell me. And all I can tell you is Mr. Palladino, who has the ultimate responsibility for determining that issue, feels that this would be a great addition to his physical education department. So I will let Mr. Palladino speak for himself. In terms of the surface, while it is true that if you wanted to maintain pristine courts, you would keep them locked and have someone standing there to make sure that people had their appropriate soles on their shoes before they entered the facility. But given the cost of having someone sitting there inspecting people's soles, we have just decided over the decades that it was more appropriate to say, this is what tennis shoes are all about. And finally, if I thought we were going to be routine, maybe you misinterpreted what I was saying about the gates.
Yeah, but can you explain the gates?
Okay.
Because I don't understand the gates if it's open.
There is going to be one normal human-sized gate on either end of these courts.
Right.
That would be open, okay?
Yep.
Open, okay? Unless when Fields and Grounds lock them because tennis is no longer applicable in January.
Okay.
Okay? The other gates would only be opened by the fire department when they needed to use it as a fire lane.
Why?
Why what?
Why would you put gates up?
Because they want to ensure that that fire lane continues to be accessible from one end to the other.
Okay.
I'm sorry I didn't explain it right the first time.
Okay. And does the distance from the building to the fence comply with the state fire laws? The Commonwealth of Massachusetts?
Well, I showed the drawing to the chief, and
No, he does not. Dicus does. I'm just asking these questions, Mr. Sweat.
I have no knowledge of whether putting up a fence right next to the fire lane creates a problem in terms of the distance from the fence to the middle school. I can't answer that question.
Thank you. Thank
Mr. Holmes?
Hi.
Hi.
That was a lot of questions there. So this is 3 courts. You'd really like 5.
No, this is 3 plus 3 or 6.
Oh, so this is 3 plus 3.
We're going to keep the original 3.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood that with the two. Well, maybe that's what they're planning to do, is have the physical education classes in this one and not have it in the other.
No.
Do you need to have 2 teachers, Madam Superintendent? If the classrooms are separated, do you need to have 2 teachers?
For liability reasons, we would have to have supervision.
Supervision, but it doesn't have to be a teacher.
That would be correct,
Right, could be an assistant, it could be,
correct.
so you wouldn't have to hire teachers to cover phys ed over 2 tennis courts, right?
Supervision, that's right.
Very good.
Mr.
So
Holmes,
this is gonna get you your,
I think our captain wanted to say something.
oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Right
Another
ahead.
aspect of the physical education part is that both the middle school and the high school physical education classes could do tennis units at the same time, because currently I don't believe that's possible. So if we had the 2 different locations, the middle school would be able to have their own gym class outside for tennis, and the high school would have their own class for tennis, as opposed to, I believe now the middle school doesn't get a chance to use the tennis courts for physical education unless they do it when the high school's not, which is in bad weather.
See, it's better to ask you the questions, because you know the answers,
I
right?
guess so.
Now, let me ask you this, so that now, when visiting teams come to Wareham to get beat by you and your colleagues, you would all play within the same court area. You wouldn't have to be split, because you'd have to be able to have 5 matches in the new box. Is that correct? She's looking at him now. Don't look at him.
Well, we would have to use both
Oh,
areas.
you still have to use both.
Right, because
Did everyone just understand there were 5?
we have 3 now, so we can get 3 matches done at once, and then we
Right.
have to wait, and then the last 2 happen after, so it's usually almost dark. But if we had 3 more courts, we could have 3 going on and 2 going on, and an extra court for the younger girls to get a chance to play.
That's the new math, I think, right? So it's 5.
Well, it's 6.
3 and 2 is 5. Is that
We
it?
have 3 courts now, and we want to have 3
Right.
additional courts to the 3 that we have.
I did that with my fingers and it worked well, didn't it? Mrs. Hood.
It
Did that
did.
not work? And
It
then they
did.
said no. It was,
We have
7.
we would have 6 courts, but in a varsity match, there are 5 matches played, so we would have 1 spare court.
good. No, I think that, the only issue is the same issue that came up with all of these projects, that, initially, the initial outlay would be 0 between the CPA funding and the private funding. And then, what happens ongoing as a support issue, right? So I'm sure you would probably save some money by not supporting the area that you support now. Is that what I heard you say? But it would probably be less for a while because you didn't have to cut the grass and
Water
and this would be
fertilizer.
less money to do that, right?
And yes, there would be, according to Cape and Islands, there's an every 7-year expense, but for the
Right.
first 6 years, there's nothing.
I think it's a great idea.
Mr. Tropiano?
All right, so I initially looked at this and was like, oh my God, with 3 more tennis courts, we already got 3, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? If you can get a dollar for dollar match, it's a no-brainer. It's really a no-brainer. If you guys are gonna raise half the money for the half the money, don't forget we get the match on the CPA on the state side as well. It's like literally paying nothing in the end result. So I'm okay with this.
Thank you.
My question would be, Mrs. Hood, the maintenance costs going forward as you budget out, you going to be able to absorb those costs in your school budget?
That's a very fair question. I actually think the maintenance costs that Cape and Islands put in there are generous. I don't imagine they will be that high, number one. Number two, the tennis team, the girls' tennis team in particular, has shown itself to be prolific fundraisers. And so the short answer is, if that's what was necessary, yours truly would commit to doing that.
Thank you. Mrs. Whiteside?
I just like putting you through the hoops because you put me through the hoops too.
Exactly.
Thank you. And congratulations for having half of the project from private funds. I congratulate you on that. That's one of the things this town needs more of.
Yes.
At this point, I'd like a motion to move on this one.
So moved.
Second, to forward it to community preservation.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mrs. Whiteside. Any questions by the board? None heard, all in favor? Opposed, abstained, 500. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Again,
thank
you
you.
need to go to the Finance Committee also.
I didn't know that, but I will.
Thank you.
All right, next, we're gonna do the library decertification presentation, because,
We got them, and we also have we have the person with the weights and measures.
yeah, well, I'm gonna do library again. All right,
Sure.
is that okay?
Whatever you like, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. Can we have the library folks, please? All right. Next, the library folks are here to talk about decertification.
Go ahead, Bethany, your request of the time.
Hi, Bethany Gay, the chairperson of the Library Board of Trustees, and I want to thank you for having us today. Even though there's been a lot of press, I just wanted to officially, publicly announce that the Wareham Free Library has been decertified as of November 6th because of a lack of municipal appropriation funding and drastic cuts of hours and staff. And what this means to a Wareham resident is you can no longer borrow books from other libraries, and there are a few exceptions, but what we're telling people is to call the library themselves and ask what services there are available for you. We will no longer receive state aid, and we are not eligible for a lot of many grants. And just on a personal note, as a teacher, this has really affected me. I supplement my lesson plans each week. I teach 6 different type of classes, and are having trouble getting the books and things that go with this. So this is just a personal of how it actually affects some of our Wareham residents. And also as a parent, we're coming up to science fair season. And, you know, getting research and getting books and those kind of things are important, and it's going to impact a lot of the residents, so I just wanted to make aware. And if anybody has questions, they can get in touch with the Library Board of Trustees, just so that there's no myths out there. And, you know, we have ways for us to help donate funds. We have a GoFundMe account. We also can, we'll have a capital campaign for the foundation. You can join the Friends and help with fundraising. So, just wanted to do that.
And I wanted to take the opportunity, you know, we understand resources are very scarce, and we really appreciate the support of the Board of Selectmen. I think you've all, you know, either acted in our fundraiser, or I won't say made fools of yourself in our fundraiser.
Go right ahead.
It was all in good fun, and we really do appreciate that, and we're, you know, hoping to continue to work to put the library on more secure financial footing. So hopefully over the next 3 years, we all agree library services are what's critical right now. You know I can speak for the foundation, and I think certainly the Friends, that we really don't intend to let the library close on our watch. We will work as hard as we can, and I know the trustees feel the same way. You know, Wareham desperately needs a library, and we're going to do everything we can to keep it that way. I wanted to kind of use this opportunity to just mention, as Bethany said, there are some myths out there about libraries in general, and this library in particular. And, you know, we look at lots of statistics, and I just wanted to give you a couple tonight. Although we all know we're kind of at the bottom of the list for funding, we're at the top of the list for how used our library is. We have one of the highest circulations for the number of hours that we're open. And I think one of the most telling statistics is the number of books circulated per staff. And this number comes from when the library was funded at, you know, $400,000, and we had, I think, a staff of 7. But each staff member was responsible over the course of the year for circulating 26,000 books or materials, and that's by far the highest number in all of southeastern Massachusetts. So we have an incredibly hardworking staff who, like everyone who's associated with the library, is really struggling to give people in the town the best services that they possibly can. And we, again, appreciate your support in trying to do that. Any questions?
No, I'm well aware of some of the outside efforts and the new initiatives that are being discussed, and I really hope that those bear some fruit so that we can get back to a level of library service that we used to have. And I appreciate both of your work and also the work of your bodies in trying to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say that I really enjoy making a fool out of myself. I
We
have
really,
more fun.
We really appreciate that.
Except for Mr. Teitelbaum's knees. I really didn't think that was necessary. I apologize to you for not coming to your meeting last week, but I did talk with Ms. Gay. I had a conflicting commitment. And I do look forward to the library continuing to be an integral part of this community. The woman who spoke earlier this evening talked about self-sufficiency. And that is really a term that we haven't heard, not from you, but it really hits home, I think, in terms of what a library can offer to a community. Mm-hmm. It's access to knowledge, and knowledge is power. And so I applaud your efforts. I'd be happy to sign, begging letters for you. I'd be happy to run another play for you without Mr. Teitelbaum.
We're counting on that.
And just best wishes to you.
Thank you.
Mr. Holmes?
Good evening, and thank you very much for all the work you do. I sometimes come at these things from different angles, and I'm kind of sorry to see he left the room, Mr. Sweat. Some of the board members, you hear them yell and scream sometimes about state-funded mandates, and you'll hear, I am using the mic. Wow. I'm also looking at my papers. And when we look at the schools and we see, how some of the reimbursement comes back to schools, right? Since I've been in this town, and again, I wasn't born here, but I've experienced MJ, God rest her soul, who dedicated many years of her life to the library. Mm-hmm. People like, you always nail yourself when you name one person, right? But, I always think of Mrs. Porter, who served for many, many years, and that whole gang, right?
And Mrs. Porter
the
still
friends.
is working incredibly hard.
Oh, yeah, I didn't mean to speak her in the past tense, but you know what I mean. I'm talking about how far back these folks go. I saw Mary walk in the room a little while ago, and the friends, and the foundation. And I got to tell you that if you sat down, and I know some of you have, and you added all that money up that the friends and the foundation have given to the Wareham Free Public Library, the numbers would blow away a lot of cities and towns. Mm-hmm. Even today, as we sit here today, and we look at what our volunteers and I went to that pay me, what did you call that? Give another plug for that, will you? Go ahead. You can use my time to plug that one more time. Go ahead.
The GoFundMe account?
Yeah, that's it, the fund me thing. And people find me with that lately. I think if you say yes once, they just keep coming.
And that, by the way, was started by some of our students,
Right.
some youth in town who value
And
the
so,
library.
right, and so what I'm saying to you is though, we bump into the same problem. Our recertification issue really isn't because we can't get money for the library. It's because it doesn't come out of the town budget, if you will. But if there was a way to funnel that money from private people and from private groups and make those dollar bills count towards, right? You follow where I'm going there? And this, it kind of comes back to what I talked about last week of maybe, you know, it's time that we started to have some town people, whether it's members of this board or Mr. Sullivan's staff or even some of our committee groups, to start liaising with folks on the state level, because this should be a no-brainer on a state level to be able to change that rule. It's not about the money, it's about changing the rule to say that if Wareham can come up with either budgeted or donated money to the sum of X, then their library should be certified. I don't believe that you should decertify a library. I disagree with that whole premise based on an annual budget, because the library gets more money than that. You couldn't fund the library on the money that they give you, right? In terms, you still need volunteers, you still need extra money.
Right.
So they don't even set the number right to successfully run a library system, do they?
Yeah, I mean, I think we could have that discussion and
Right?
go on for hours and hours. I think, you know, what the state's premise is that cities and towns need to provide a certain level of public funding for a public library. You know, I'm not saying it's not a struggle at this point. We truly do understand that. But that's kind of the premise that they're working from. So, you know, hopefully we can all work together to get the library over the course of the next few years back on solid footing. And I think then if we can do that, recertification will come, so.
And my last question was, how many other cities and towns lost certification this
We're
year?
actually the only ones.
Out of 365
yes,
cities and
300
towns in the
right.
Commonwealth.
There are
only
some that
Wareham?
lost, only Wareham. Others have been decertified over the last decade, but they have all regained certification.
Oh, so we're not the only one, just
No,
this year.
other libraries have lost certification.
So we're the
yes.
only ones this year.
Yes, we're the only ones this year.
And at the size that we are too.
It's still sad, I know.
Yeah.
If there was a way to take that money, maybe that's what we need to start looking into, is try to find a way to take that money and earmark it. I know that gets difficult sometimes, but I was always under the impression that if you wrote the library on the bottom of the check, that it would go to that, but it still doesn't count towards Mr. Sullivan taking that money and counting it for the library. It doesn't count the same way.
The state will not count it.
Yeah. So,
Some of us are
thank you
trying to,
again, though, for all your work, and a lot of you that are in
Right.
your field.
Thank you.
Mr. Tropiano?
All right. I think this whole certification thing from the state is baloney between you and I. I think we have a perfectly good library. We have perfectly good books. People want to use our books, right? We get more people coming this way than go that way, right? So the fact that they would decertify it for whatever reason is absurd. Okay, it really is. It's absurd. Look, there's no. Do we still loan the books to other people, other libraries? No. Because that should cease immediately.
I'll let Bethany speak to that. She's the trustee.
We're actually, that's been on our agenda. That's going to be our next. We're looking at the numbers of how many out-of-town residents are using our circulation and how it is affecting, and especially now that we can't borrow from other things. So we're looking at that on a monthly basis, and we're going to make some decisions based on that.
Well, I mean, if they decertify us and we can't borrow from another library, then no other library should be able to borrow from us.
However, you're at playgroup, you have somebody from another neighboring town, a 5-year-old wants to take a book out, and your staff has a line, you know.
Well, then the state should fix that and recertify us.
Right. It's not a,
No,
it's something that we're looking at. We have other options and other ideas, and we are aware of it, and so we're gonna kind of look at it.
No, I mean, this isn't right. It's not right that they should decertify us so we can't borrow books, no matter what funding level, because we have lots of books, and that we should turn around and allow them to loan to other places. That's ridiculous. I mean, you know, they should pay the penalty as well. If they want to take it away from us, then we'll penalize them as well. Because we do a lot more loaning out than we do loaning in.
I know that we have
Considerably,
put no hold,
a matter of
right.
fact.
We've put, no one can put holds on and those kind of things, so we have done it on that aspect, but we're gonna look at the policies. in
Okay,
the
well,
future.
I mean, because I can think of all the other residents, they're gonna be a little mad if we're giving them books, but they won't give us books. You know, once upon a time, years ago, when I was young, if the library, and they didn't have certification back then that I remember, but if a library was willing to be a loaner library, then you could borrow books from another library. If a library wanted to not be a loaner library, then they wouldn't, and they wouldn't allow it to go either way. You know what I'm saying? And there were libraries like that, because we had one in Watertown that wouldn't loan to anybody, and therefore we couldn't borrow out as well. You know what I'm saying? So this whole system came about, which I guess is the sales system. Is that what they call it?
Yeah,
Sales?
yeah, in our region, it's
And that's
sales.
our region is
It's,
sales.
You know, on the
All right,
Cape,
so
it's
there's-
clams.
Yeah.
The system is kind of an effort, a bit, to create, you know, people talk about county libraries. Well,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is a way of sharing resources.
Right.
So it's more economical, but still maintaining access, because you still have a building, you know, you still have a library in each town, so.
Right,
that's
now
kind
I
of the
could see
purpose of
them,
that.
I could see the state saying, well, okay, we're not gonna allow you certain grants or do whatever. I have no problem with that. But as far as the loaning of books, we have a lot of books. People wanna borrow them. You can't borrow our books, we can't borrow yours. You know, it just makes perfect sense to me. And I know you wanna try to be nice, I get that, but, you know, that's part of the process. I think if I was in charge of the library, I'd stop loaning books to somebody else immediately.
I've got a few questions. There's been a lot of information that's been going out in the newspapers, et cetera. I think some of it causes a lot of problems. My first question, when I was at a meeting a few weeks ago before I went away, there was a comment made at the meeting by, I think, the library director, that we were still in the sale program, we had already paid or something.
We are, and again, Bethany, you may be, we are still part of the
Right.
sales program.
The sales program does all our cataloging. It does all of our books, all of our circulation and those things.
So we've
So
already
it's-
paid for that
And we
for
have
the
already
year.
paid for the sales, yeah.
Just so people understand that.
They do provide a service other than just, you
I
know,
no, I understand.
lending books
There was just,
to
again, there
other
was,
towns.
we were told before that the sale program was gone, et cetera.
No.
I'm just telling you what came out. That's
And
why
I
I'm
think,
making
you
my
know,
comments.
I think
I
part of,
appreciate that.
part of the problem, the issue with that rumor is the piece of the sales program that allows patrons, and this is up to other libraries, it's not really up to us. Other libraries that are certified have decided not to lend to our, you know, patrons. So that, I mean, technically, that is technically part of sales, but that's not sales making that decision.
Yeah.
So what, you know, the librarian paid for is those services other than the mutual lending program, which are quite a lot of services that we frankly wouldn't be able to provide on our own. So sales is still important. You have to separate the, you know,
I
the
understand.
interlibrary loan thing, which
I just want
true
to
no longer exists.
clarify an
So-
issue
so
that was out there.
That is that,
We received a letter, I believe all the board members got a letter from the town of Brookline,
right.
which is my alma mater, which I'm very disappointed in, saying that they weren't going to loan Wareham books unless they physically came to Brookline.
Right.
My little letter back to the particular library director there, actually wasn't director, I think it was the chairman of the committee, he said that I was quite disappointed since Brookline has a lot of extra funds and money, and it'd be really nice if they'd like to contribute some of their excess funds to our library so we could function. I also mentioned something else which I won't repeat here. The other issue that I think needs clarification, Mr. Teitelbaum and I went to one of the meetings with the group
Right.
to fight for the library. One of the library commissioners pulled us aside and told us very simply, you guys should consider being decertified for 3 years, come back in 3 years when your financial house is in order, and come back, because you come back, and after 3 years, we'll take the average of what you spent over the last 3 years, and that's your new number.
Mhm.
Everybody needs to understand, because we spent over $600,000 back a few years ago, that number goes into the mix. And this year here, if I remember right, I believe to be certified as far as what we're supposed to spend under their formula, it's $711,000.
No,
That's
four.
one of the issues we have.
Well,
Don't
I
say no,
mean,
sir.
No,
We were there when we told that.
You're right, you're right. It is based on, what you've traditionally spent, and I think the 432 number would have allowed us to get a waiver. That's what they
Maybe.
were willing to use and we could have gotten a waiver for that, and
They
you're
would have given
right.
us a waiver for the previous year, not for the new coming year. They told us very
No,
simply they would.
not at 125,000.
No, they told us simply, and they expect us to go back up to the number.
I think that's true.
So, I mean, that's kind of where that piece is at. I just want to make the point of what's happened here. Also, the Library Commission for the state of Massachusetts put out a request for people to step up and work on revising the policies of the Library Commission. I applied, because I thought it'd be a good thing for a town that's in trouble to sit there and be on the board.
Mhm.
I got a letter back from them saying, I'm sorry, but we're only going to take people who are involved with the libraries directly as directors, et cetera. So they're basically going to revise how they do things with a closed box.
Mm. That
So
doesn't sound
when
fair.
Mr. Holmes says, why can't we go out and do stuff, it's because they won't allow us to do stuff.
Did you mention that to the director applying request?
I physically talked to the person at the director at the state level and expressed my concerns that they weren't going to allow it. Because they actually contacted
So
me
they
and said no.
they don't allow any citizens to be on
No,
it?
they do not. They want to have people that are
that's
only involved with the
unfair.
library system, and therefore, it's not going to change.
Mhm.
So, these are my comments. I'm very disgusted that we have to wait and do this the way we are,
Mhm.
but they basically laid it out for us that day. And they just aren't going to move, they aren't going to change. I've said before, the only one that's going to help us is ourselves, and that's what we have to do.
It even shows how absurd it is that you can wait 3 years, come up with a new number, and then be recertified. I mean, think how crazy that is.
It's foolish.
I
'cause
mean,
we're a
think how
major supplier.
ridiculous that is. So, we didn't spend any more money, we just got penalized for 3 years.
Yeah.
Actually, who got penalized are the citizens of the town of Wareham.
Exactly.
That's
That's
who
who
got
gets
penalized.
penalized. It's
We'll do whatever we can, but, I'm
Thank
not
you.
happy
We will.
because I'm fighting a system I can't even get in the front door.
It's frustrating.
Thank you.
What
Thank
would
you.
John Hancock think, right? What would John Hancock think?
He'd smuggle books
Would he
in.
revolt?
Good night.
Thank you very much for coming.
And Ben Franklin, how about Ben Franklin, first library? All right, next up is, we're gonna do weights and measures. Thank you, sir.
Go ahead,
The original sheet that I gave Derek, the original cover sheet, I made an error and left out some numbers that should have been on it. This sheet I just handed to you has those numbers on it. Everything here, now, I feel like I'm the odd man out. I'm in here trying to bring more money in instead of trying to take it out. These numbers were based on the calendar year 2013, because that's the first full year Obviously, this year hasn't ended as yet. 2013, the town paid me to be sealer of weights and measures $10,990.13.
We collected.
Fees that we took in total $6,695,
You're fired.
which
You're
is not.
expensive.
That's it, you're gone.
The proposals that I have, going by what other towns are charging and doing, the middle column, and we can go over each line individually if you like, but the middle column would bring in $10,810, which is still
less.
lower than what I have gotten paid that year. The final column would bring in $13,100. It would not affect my time any. All it affects is the fee that we charge the businesses that we do the testing on.
The fees on the third column, are they in line with the other communities? Because I know I think our numbers were low before.
Basically, they are, the entire package gives you a listing. I printed them out numerically.
I saw it. I just want you to answer
And
that.
it gives you the listings of all the different towns, and I highlighted where we are in accordance with that. And for the most part, we are in, that third column is in very much alignment with them. The first column where we are currently, in most classifications, we are on the lowest third of fees.
Okay. I have a question, Mr. Bowen. Does this fall under, I'm probably going to have the wrong information, Chapter 40, 22F, where the fees, where we can go ahead as a board and vote to accept them without going through town meeting?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A timely question. Here's the issue. Chapter 40, Section 22F says any municipal board or officer empowered to issue a license, permit, certificate, or render a service or perform may charge reasonable fees. The official appointed by the Board of Selectmen has to come back to the Board of Selectmen to get confirmation of the fees. Very general statute. However, in Chapter 98, Section, I want to say it's 37, although I'll have it for you in a second. What that section says is that the fees that the sealer of weights and measures may set are established by statute, except as may be otherwise provided by town meeting. So you have a general statute, and then you have a very specific statute.
I don't have the printout of what it says, but some of the fees are also listed in 98, Section 56.
Yeah, in fact, if you give me 1 second. Oh, here we go. 98, Section 56, if I may read it out loud. Except as otherwise established in a town by town meeting action, by adoptions of appropriate bylaws and ordinances to set such fees, sealers shall receive and inspectors may demand the following fees for sealing and inspecting the following weighing or measuring devices. And then it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. It talks about avoir, duploir weights and all this great stuff that you never really hear about.
It goes very elaborate.
Yeah, it's a trip down memory lane. But the bottom line here is that you've got this Chapter 98, Section 56 that sets out specific statutes, and it says, except as established in a town by town meeting action. And, when you have a conflict between a general statute and a more specific statute, the usual interpretation is the more specific statute applies.
Were these rates originally set by town meeting?
No, I'm not quite sure. I haven't examined the proposed rates. Yeah. So I'm gonna presume that if these rates differ from those set out in the statute, that they must have gone to town meeting at some point.
Never
I
assume
said I'm presuming. I'm not saying. Well, it's a very old statute.
Well, the point is that if we want to enact these, we have to take it to town meeting.
No.
Yes.
Well, we have to check and see whether town meeting authorizes us to do it. We haven't found that yet.
We did adopt chapter 4022 after.
Yes. I'll just
You have to
boil,
think
I'll
about
boil my opinion down. I think the more specific statute applies, which is rate changes that vary from that which is set in statute have to be approved by town meeting. I'm going to assume that the rates we charge now were approved by town meeting, but in any event, it's my opinion, based on the more specific statute, that if you wish to have higher rates or different rates from the ones that we charge now, that would have to go to town meeting.
So that I would ask that you go ahead and probably put together a warrant article way ahead of time for Springtown meeting, please, using these rates.
May I,
We probably cannot raise the rate yet, so therefore we can't pay it for a couple months.
well, we can't vote on it right now, but how many years have you been doing this, sir?
A long time.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
How many years have you been doing this, sir?
About 5 or 6 years now.
Okay, and have you ever reset the rates?
No.
Okay, but you have read the statute,
If-
and you have researched that we are in the lower one-third. So, okay, so two-thirds of the people, or the 251 cities and towns in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts are either breaking the law or they go to town meeting all the time to set these rates. That's the most absurd thing I've ever heard, and I've heard a lot of them tonight.
No, I mean, it's how it goes. I mean, you do, there's certain procedures to get these things enacted, and you do them. And I'm sure the other towns did their things. Whatever their procedure is, that's how they have to do it.
It's what we have town council for. We need to follow the rules.
Yep.
Okay, so let's give it to him.
Already have.
To the extent that this is viewed as taxation, it should be done by the legislature and not the Board of Selectmen.
So we'll put it on for town meeting and try to get them
We'll
obtained,
get the rates
changed for you.
moved up there.
All right?
And I have some minor issues with the truck that I will be putting a report together. And I'll give it to you by way of Derek.
Okay. If you would like to go over these rates, and if there's any of them that still you think are a little low, you can always make the change, because we have a time frame before warrant article.
I think yeah, he's a gentleman, works for the town. He comes in, and he's setting fees by his salary. I think this is a hoot. He wants to make 10,031, whatever it is, right? So he comes in and says, okay, here's what I collected. You lost money on me. So adjust the fee so that we can at least break even. I think it's a hoot. This is great. That's how it should be. We should line everybody up. Come on in. Tell us what you make. Tell us what you need. Let's make a profit, right? I mean, this is great stuff. And we can't set a rate. You're right, Ellen. This is nuts.
Thank you, sir.
I believe we can, but like he says, it has to be done via town meeting.
No, it's done. Mr. Chairman, here's your town meeting article.
So he's actually he's a town employee, though, Mrs. Whiteside. I think that's where the difference comes in. He's a town employee.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
He's an employee of the
Next
town.
up, townwide trash.
There's nothing there yet. That's just something I'm working on. I've contacted CMAS, Republic,
Okay.
et cetera. I'll be back hopefully right after the first of the year.
Public and private roads, I believe we're not ready with that either.
Do the same
Is
thing.
that correct?
Mrs. Whiteside, we're still not ready, correct?
Right.
Mr. Sullivan was given an interim report a week ago, and the project is still underway. The report will be finalized by the first of the year. It will be given to Mr. Sullivan and then to whoever he believes it should be given to.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other town business not reasonably?
So, since there's discussion, Mr. Chairman, so what is the ruling until all this is done? And people who have traditionally had their roads plowed by the town this particular winter.
It hasn't changed.
If it snows tomorrow,
They're getting
They're getting
going
plowed.
to get their roads plowed, Mr. Chairman.
That's correct.
Status quo.
Until anything.
Until we
public- so
change the policy.
We wouldn't change that policy in the middle of winter. So this would be something that maybe we're looking at for next winter.
Correct.
So anyone who sent all those emails in, you can there's your answer. You don't need to worry about this until next winter.
All right.
Mr. Titlebaum, you got a question?
Yeah, well, not a question, just a remark. I've been discussing this with the municipal maintenance director, and one of the issues we've run across is roads that we believe are, in essence, accepted town roads, but you can't find the town meeting vote of acceptance. But at one time, there was a municipal purpose for the road for more than 20 years. They're called ancient ways. And Mr. Menard, on his own, after I started talking with him about what I thought was a pretty good quantity of ancient ways likely to pop up in the course of the research that Selectman Whiteside and her assistant are doing, is to try to get Chapter 90 money for those roads. So I think what will happen going forward is working with town council, we'll come up with a form with the necessary proofs so that the town clerk can certify these roads so that they can be added to the Chapter 90 list, and we can increase our share of the state money that goes to maintain the roads, which is, we've been maintaining these roads since time immemorial, but we haven't been getting the state reimbursement for doing so. So it's time to get these on the list and get them straightened out.
Mr. Chairman.
Just one thing, we also need to make sure that we have roads that we gave back to the county or the state, well, that status there that Mrs. Whiteside has picked up, and get that straightened out as well.
That is part of what is being researched,
We know.
including what bridges may have been given back to the Commonwealth.
Mr. Holmes?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I don't know if this is part of the scope or if you've even found these documents, but I want to say about 4 years ago, Mr. Gifford and Mr. Andrews, and there's a company, I can't remember the name, I could go back and do the research on that for you, but they had gone through every road in town, and it was all part of the, it was a tarring, street, support, street, maintenance for the entire town, every mile of road, and they had identified a bunch of roads that were not owned, I'm just thinking about this when you mentioned Chapter 90 money, because they actually came, I remember, with a wheel, and they walked some of the streets down in Onset because they were not getting the money.
Right.
And so they walked these streets, and they put them on the roll so that they could get some of that money.
Right.
So I don't know, have you seen that?
Yes.
Have you seen those
Yes.
documents?
Yes. We have been using a total of 8 different lists, one from each fire department, one from the police department, one from the planning board, one from the clerk's office, one from municipal maintenance, and one from the, who else knows? We've used 100-year-old maps, we've used 114 years worth of town reports, and we're still looking. I've
But
looked.
you did see this one, right, Judy?
Yes.
Yes.
From this
You
back.
know,
Yes.
you know that if we just plowed the roads and fixed them like we're supposed to, we wouldn't have to do any of this. Would be a futile exercise. You know, if we did what we've been doing for the last 200 years, we wouldn't have this exercise.
Okay.
Any other business not reasonably anticipated in the last 48 hours?
Mr. Titlebaum?
None.
Mrs. Whiteside?
Can I tell you we're going to be perambulating the bounds on Sunday?
That would be under the, yeah, sure, you can do that.
What did she say?
We get liaison reports coming up in a minute.
Walk the boundaries of the town.
We get liaison is coming up.
Fine.
A selectman has to do it once a year.
This is last 24 hours. This is the, nobody's got anything, right? Okay, town administrator's appoint, none because he's not here, unless somebody wants to give one for him. Liaison reports.
Mr. Titlebaum?
Have you been liaising?
Sort of, kind of. Today, I actually was invited by the president of the Swiss Beach Improvement Association to go walk that parcel that we just recently rededicated at town meeting. and to take a look at it. There are a lot of interesting possibilities down there to integrate it into the rest of Swiss Beach for use as a town beach. There's an existing parking area that clearly would never be tarred because you can't do that close to a coastal zone, but I doubt there's any reason why you couldn't put shell down if there's any need for additional parking down there. I'm told that both of the municipal lots currently being used down there tend to fill up on the busiest days. There's also a large concrete pad where if somebody did want to, in fact, resurrect the idea of having a refreshment stand down there, which they did have down there when I was a kid, that's still there. There's a lot of possibilities for that land. I think we both took a look at the drainage ditch that separates it from the Swiss Neck parcel of Swiss Beach and felt that it would be wise to put at least one and possibly a couple of bridges over that so people don't keep caving in the banking when they go down to try to go from one to the other and hop the little stream that's there that results in us having to call Plymouth County Mosquito Control to come out and ditch the thing. So there's a lot that can be done out there to make it more accessible, more useful, and so that the people can finally get the bang for the rather large buck that they paid for it.
Mrs. Whiteside.
I am going to be perambulating the bounds of the town. It is required by law that you do this every 5 years. You mark the metes and bounds of the town. The reason this is done is because in the olden days, even before I was a little girl, people used to move the markers to change the dimensions of the town. So it is something that hasn't been done in Wareham for a long time. Mr. Menard, Mr. Slavin, and a third person that we previously authorized as an agent of ours, but we need to reauthorize him, Mr. Howard Smith of Old Plate Road, will also be doing this. The bounds, you paint them, and then you send a certified letter to the selectmen of the adjacent city or town saying that you've done it.
Mr. Holmes.
No, I appreciate Mrs. awful job. I remember the night she kind of volunteered or was appointed to do that.
She's got my waiters, she's fine.
I want to thank her for that.
I have nothing.
Job, 'cause that's not an
You have
easy-
nothing?
You're last.
I'm last. Okay, very
You've
good.
been away, so you can't have anything.
Oh, you'll be surprised, back a few days, doesn't take long. Today, we had nothing really. The day before, I was over at the Plymouth County, over at Overy Street. They have a new dredge program that the county has put together. They have 10 towns, Wareham's one of them, that are in the list. This program is going to allow, if we get permits, of course, to be able to dredge some of the waterways that we have issues with. Because there's no federal money coming in the near future for any of this. And that was one piece we had. And the planning board actually on Monday night had the first application for a TDR came through from AD Makepeace. There was a question that came up during the presentation, which was a little interesting because when the TDR was put together, it was put together with the idea of you'd basically have a sending and receiving area. It would be one complete component. When the particular company that was doing this had done it in Plymouth, they actually dedicated the sending area, but actually put the special permit, what we call, up on the shelf, waiting for time to designate a receiving area. The way our bylaw is written, we don't have a provision for that per se. So I'm not sure how that's going to work out. I believe we sent a request off to Attorney Whitten to confirm that. He sent me a note this morning saying that, yes, the way it's written is there, so we may have to go back and possibly change it if we decide we want to. But it was interesting to see that someone actually stepped up to try and work with the TDR. It was going to be, I think it was 130 acres of land, something like that. So I'll keep the board advised as that goes along. That's all I've got.
All right, I have one last thing. I found out that Derek had the baby was born on Saturday, and the baby's name is Margaret.
Yes,
So it was a little girl.
And
So
Nora's taking good care of her.
So I thought everybody might want to know that. All right, that's it. We have nothing else. Motion to adjourn
So
would be
moved.
appropriate.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mr. Whiteside. All in favor?
Yeah, yeah.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, Wareham.